Hello, good folks. It's your entrepreneurial traveling stay-at-home dad, Joel Petgrave, back with another episode of Review My Life, where every week we review a different aspect of my life. And on this episode, we're going to review what it's like being married to a traveling nurse. Now, in this episode, we're going to go over what is traveling nursing, the different states we've done travel nursing in, and an overall overview of my experience of traveling nurses. What is traveling nursing? Travel nursing is essentially a regular nurse who, instead of working for a single facility, works for an agency that allows them to accept contracts across the country. So instead of working at St. John's Memorial Hospital, you might work for an agency that allows you to take contracts in your hometown, the neighboring states, or even all the way across the country. Why would somebody want to be a traveling nurse? Well, the money, duh. I'm sure there's other reasons. Maybe you just like traveling, and that's a good way to both work and travel at the same time. But in my honest opinion, I feel most people are doing it for the money. So that being said, what are the states that we actually did traveling nursing in? So we're currently on our fourth assignment. So we've been to Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland, which interestingly enough is where I graduated from high school. So it's kind of cool going back to my old stomping grounds. So we did Silver Spring, Maryland. We did Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We went all the way across to Boise, Idaho, which was actually our first time going to the Northwest, at least for me, and our first time doing a multi-day road trip. So if you're interested in me doing a video about that experience, please let me know in the comment section below. And then after that, we came all the way back to the East Coast, or East. I don't know if it's considered the East Coast, but we're here in Kentucky, which will be our last assignment for this year. Also, if you want to learn more, I've been trying to get my wife to do a video with both of us, being that she's the one that's actually the actual nurse, just to give you more of the ins and out about traveling nurses. Please leave a like so I could help convince her to come on camera, because she's been kind of putting it off. If you're interested to learn about being a traveler nurse, and trust me, if you're a nurse, you would be interested. Now, when it comes to my overall experience, I divided into three buckets, into money, moving, and miscellaneous. So let's get the big one out of the way. What is the money like? Well, I can tell you, this money ain't funny. Yo, the money is really good. And I'm not saying that just to brag, but to put it in perspective, the income change before and after we did travel nursing. Before my daughter was born, both my wife and I were working full time. And the money my wife makes bi-weekly doing travel nurse was more money than both of us did for working the entire month. Now, granted, rates have gone up due to COVID, and also there's some nursing staff shortages in some states because of that. So the rates are a little higher, but regardless of that, even before the pandemic, rates for travel nursing is significantly more. But it's not all roses and sunshine, because you may be asking, if the money's so good, why would anybody do just be a regular non-travel nurse? There's many reasons why you may not want to do travel nursing. One of the things, for one, you need experience. In a lot of places ask for at least 1 to 2 years of experience in a given field. So for one, you need experience. You can't just graduate from school and says, I'm going to do traveling nursing. So you need somewhere to stay to get your experience. Number two, if you're trying to if you have experience in one area and you want to get experience in a new field, if you're a med-surg nurse and you want to go to the ER or something like that, or intensive care unit, that's not something you will be able to do doing travel nursing. Pretty much you have to be experienced in that field, so you can't learn new skills as a travel nurse. Now, during the pandemic, they've been kind of like lenient, because like my wife has been put in units where she's never worked before, but I think that's pretty much because of like the whole shortage and the whole pandemic. But in most cases, they want you to have experience in a given field. Now, like I said, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some things you need to consider if you're planning to do travel nursing, or if you're married to somebody with travel nursing. And the first big hurdle is the moving. Now, if you're single, this is not as big of a hurdle than if you have a whole family. Like, for example, in my wife's case, she obviously has me and our 15-month-old daughter. Well, she was six months when we started to move. So if you're traveling with a family, you have to consider the cost of moving. In our case, we did short-term leases. We went to just regular apartments. You would go up and live regular if you were staying in one place, but just did it for short term. And short term for us was 3 months, because most of the contracts we did was 13 weeks, which equates to about 3 months. So we did short-term leases, which is considerably more expensive than a regular term leases. But we did that because we wanted to, one, it's our first time doing travel nursing, so we wanted as much stability in our living situation as possible, because there were so many moving parts for us. We had a growing daughter, and this was our first year doing this, so we decided to do short-term leases. Also, I just want to mention, with moving, if there was one thing I hated about being married to a travel nurse, it was moving every 3 months. It is a headache. Just to give our situation, like I said before, we did short-term leases, and these were unfurnished housing. What we pretty much did, we brought the bare minimum, and then on our first assignment, we got like a futon, beds that are like bed frames that are foldable, with a cheap mattress from Amazon. But we still had a lot of stuff for our daughter, like she had her play plan, she had her jumper, she had a little seat she sat in. We had like gates to keep for her little play area. We had her play mats. We had all her toys, lots of toys. So like moving every 3 months, that was probably the most frustrating part. And like I said, if you're single, it'll probably be less of a hassle for you, but for us, that was probably the most stressful part. Now, in our current assignment, we're actually doing an Airbnb, because we've actually kind of like shifted in our approach to housing. We actually are interested in getting into an RV. Interesting enough, that's something that I've always kind of like had, like when we just get married, hey babe, we should go on an RV and travel. But with traveling nursing, it's a lot more convenient, because instead of having to pack up and rent a U-Haul every 3 months, all we have to do is get our trailer towed from one place to another place. And it also gives us more flexibility, because we're able to, it makes it more easier to do short-term contracts. It would have been feasible to do like a 4-week contract, just moving like every month, like 12 times of the year. That would just be insane. So moving is a big consideration that you had to do when you're considering doing travel nursing, especially if you have a family. So we talked a little bit about the money, we talked about moving. Let's talk about like miscellaneous stuff that I probably won't immediately think of. Like money and moving are the two biggest thing on your mind about like travel nursing, but there are a lot of other things you have to consider. Another thing you have to consider is about employee benefits. Now, depending on the agency you choose to work with, some agencies offer full benefits like 401k, health, dental, and all of that. Some offer just one of those things. Some might just offer none of those things. So that's another thing you have to consider. In our case, kind of been around with agencies. We've actually been with 3 different agencies in 1 year. One of the agency was just a local agency in the area where we got our first assignment. So we couldn't use them for our next assignment because they only did the Maryland area. So the second agency offered health insurance, but it didn't offer a 401k. And the agency we're with now offers 401k and health and dental and all of that. And also, even if they do offer those benefits, I would also like just double check on the open market as well, because we found in one case the amount they were charging for health benefits, it's a lot more expensive than what we were used to, or more expensive than if you were a full-fledged employee at a fixed location. Another miscellaneous thing you want to consider is about licensing. For those of you who are not familiar with nursing, you have to be licensed, like most professionals. You're licensed in your specific state. If you have a Tennessee state license, you're only licensed to work in Tennessee. There is a thing called a compact state license, where you get the compact state license and you're licensed to work in multiple states, and whichever states participate in this compact licensing program, you get to work in that state without having to get another license in that state. It covers most of the states in the United States, but there's a handful of states, mostly on the like the Northeast and West Coast states, are not a part of it for some reason. I don't know. So that's another thing you have to consider. Do you have a compact state, or if there's a state that you want to work in, do you have a license for that state? In our case, my wife did have a compact state license. In the beginning, it gave us a lot of options, but we went ahead and actually apply for state licenses in a couple other states. One of them we actually worked in, so that kind of worked out. Just to give us more flexibility, and if we're being honest, we were looking at states that were paying the most, so we applied for licenses that give us more flexibility and more options. Another miscellaneous thing another thing you want to consider when doing travel nursing is nursing contracts. A lot of times, you see a higher paycheck. You just get caught up in like, oh wow, I'm gonna make this much money. But travel nursing is a lot more volatile than just having a regular staff nursing job or any regular staff job, because a lot of contracts are based on what they call at will, which pretty much means you're required to work the hours that you signed for, but the facility at any time could, based on their needs, can say, hey, we no longer need you, and they could cut your contract short, which actually did happen to us in Idaho. And that was the first time we got our contract cut short, and which put a big inconvenience of us, because like I said before, we went all the way across the country, and then for our next contract we had to come all the way back. So that's another thing you gotta I guess kind of plan for or consider. It's very common. In fact, a lot of our friends that do traveling nursing, at least they've at least had one contract that was canceled on them. So it's another thing you have to just keep in mind. So the last miscellaneous thing you wanted to consider is just about state, area, and the culture that you're going to. Especially if you're doing a longer contract. Like I said, for us, all of our contracts thus far have been 13-week contracts. So we were kind of like, we were there for a good minute, like at least 3 months, about in any given place. Especially nowadays where there's so much political tension and stuff like that. A lot of people have, you might not feel comfortable in like especially if you've not traveled a lot or been a lot of different places. Like for my wife and I, we've both lived up north and down south on the East Coast, so we've kind of had different experiences of different kind of people. So we're kind of like, it was a little easier for us to adjust to different places. But I know some people are not used to certain type of lifestyles or behaviors or beliefs or whatever. Then they've kind of like been in the same bubble their whole life. So that's something you just want to think about. One interesting fun fact during the pandemic, just how everybody dealt with masks. In some states, everyone would look at you if you weren't wearing your mask, and then in other states, everyone would look at you if you were wearing a mask. So I thought that was kind of interesting, going to different states. And also, for us folks, you always want to be on the lookout for areas, where we're good, and if you get my drift. So that's our experience. That's kind of like how it's been being a stay-at-home dad, being married to a traveling nurse. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Review My Life. Stay tuned. Please like, share, and subscribe for another video. And like I said, if you're interested in just learning more about travel nursing, I'm going to try to get my wife on. Please like and leave a comment in the description below to kind of like, so I can kind of like irk her to like, come on the camera, and because I think it'll be beneficial to you guys. I know some of her personal friends she's put on, and it's kind of like changed their lives, so, and someone put her on, so I would love for her to do that. So please let us know in the description below. But thank you again for watching Review My Life.